there is a right and wrong way to borrow family members' money, to borrow friends' money, to borrow, just people that you want to borrow money to as an investment, right? You want to sort of, buy their debt, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. And what you don't want is people emotionally tugging at you because they feel you just got this money and you didn't earn it. It's not your hard-earned money. And so they want to come help relieve you of the burden of carrying some of that money around for one reason or another, nefarious or not. Right. But there's a whole segment about like, consciously or subconsciously, for better or for worse, humans will, emotionally pull at other humans in an effort to try to get their money. So protect yourself by not sharing with everyone.
Yes.
And if
I think that's part of the advantage of working with an advisor is I'm sure you do it too. I feel like I'm always arming my client, right?
Yeah.
I'm helping to give them the armor or the sword or whatever, and to just help go out and deal with life and other humans, as you said.
Yeah.
One of the best parts of this managing expectation tool, for example, is that you craft a personal statement that you can give, like at a cocktail party, when someone asks you about it, or someone maybe already knows that you come into some money and it, like you said, is pressuring you and pushing all the emotional buttons. You craft a personal statement that you can almost just feed back without all the emotional triggers.
Yeah.
And it would be something like, I'm working with a financial transitionist or a financial planner, someone who is trained to help a widow like me. And we're figuring out all the pieces, and I'm not going to make any decisions yet. I'm going to survey everything and make sure I've considered everything before I make a decision, and just kind of let the person know, pause. I'm not going to do that right now. Doesn't mean never. You're not completely being rude, but you're helping with that emotional shield or buffer to try to make better decisions.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about really like calling it and building a specific process around like, okay, you've had this event. Let's build your, what'd you call it? Like your mission statement,
personal statement.
Your personal statement.
Yeah.
But I do have, I have one client that came to mind, or someone that they do have a personal statement, and they just tell people, I'm reinvesting into my business right now.
Nice.
So they're an entrepreneur and they say, I'm just reinvesting into my business right now. And they just kind of leave it at that. And like, hey, I make, it's like, I don't know. It's just a direct enough statement, works for him.
Yeah. But vague enough that they don't need to know the detail, and just, politely, let's talk about something else.
But that's a really interesting idea though, to like, write something down in advance, have something prepared, and say, XYZ reason, this is where I kind of stand. And just something that, when the emotions start flying and you're like, and you get the jitters and someone's putting you on the spot and all this, it's kind of that rehearsed, here's my line. I am working with a financial professional that's guiding me. You'd have to speak with them, or whatever reason, that's awesome. Okay.
It's very empowering, and it even works with retirement as well. I had one client who, most of her colleagues were about 10 years older than she was. And so they were all retiring, and they were saying to her, why aren't you retiring? Why aren't you retiring? And it got really emotionally triggering for her. She hated that question. So we crafted a personal statement of just, she's not ready yet. She still enjoys working. She'll consider that. And when it's appropriate, she'll move forward, but it was something that it was like 3 sentences that she could just refer back to and not have to worry about coming up with something when she was emotionally triggered.
Yeah. It's just having a little statement prepared, so you're more emotionally equipped, or you have an emotional fallback almost, right? When the emotions get high, cortisol's, pumping through and all the stress, and chest is tight and hands are shaking, and you're like, I have my statement.
I know my line.
Back off. Okay. That's some great advice. That's such a great idea. That's a wonderful takeaway. Okay. So kind of taking the scenario. I have my money. I've sought some counsel from, trusted people around me that all said, find yourself a fiduciary advisor. And somebody told me, create a personal statement to tell people ahead of time. How do you start moving forward then? What's sort of the next thing to find the right people, to ask the right questions, and to avoid doing the blatantly or obvious wrong things?
Yes. Yes. So we often do a brain dump, because that's when, someone comes to you that they've probably got a ton of things in their brain. They're not sure how to prioritize. They're maybe afraid something's left out. And it depends a lot on the personality and where the person's at when they come to you, right? So there's a wide range of things that we can see. But I often guide clients through, I don't call it a brain dump. We call it a decision-free zone, or a DFZ. And we usually do it in thought clouds. So it's like you ask them what's on their mind and you jot that down. And what else and what else? And you're kind of trained to just keep asking open-ended questions, because they may have come to you for a tax question about this inheritance that they had, for example. But then as it comes out, and then there's also this pension, and then there's this other thing. And then what do I do about my niece's student loan? I kind of want to pay that off, but is that a good idea? All this stuff. And so in the initial conversations with a professional, I always encourage people to just lay it all out there, right? Just dump out the drawer and let's have everything, because then that's when the mind is calm. When you can empty it all and just have it all out there. Yeah. You can calm down, and then we can prioritize. So this DFZ is a process of first a brain dump, then categorizing, because they're going to fall into groups. There'll be some things that are financial. There'll be some that are relationships. There will be some that are some other category. Health might come up. So you help to categorize what each area is, and then finally to prioritize. And a lot of things that feel urgent aren't really at the end of the day. So this activity really helps clients to think from a different perspective. Susan calls it taking them to the balcony. So you're down on the dance floor and everything's hot and sweaty and messy. So you take clients to the balcony where they can have a perspective on their own situation a little more objectively. And from there is where you can take a breath and make better decisions about how you want to move forward, and what do you actually have to do now? What can you do soon, and what can you leave till later?
Yeah, that's are you familiar with the what kind of comes to mind is the prioritization matrix, right? The Stephen Covey principle. So
yeah.
So you have
like
things that are so on one axis you have urgent, and on the other axis you have important. So everything's kind of a combination of one of those with a positive or negative. So you have things that are important and urgent, and things that are, they're important, but they're not urgent. And then there's things that are not important, but they are urgent. And then there's things that are not important and not urgent.
Totally. It's the same thing. It's a slightly less mathy way to do it, but the outcome is very similar. Yeah.
I have a pretty mathy brain. A gift or a curse depends on the day.